I'm Nick Filardi.
I'm Jason Thielbar.
Welcome to the world's second finest podcast. Welcome to the To Read Pile. We take a break for the Bat books and we read anything else that we have in our pile, whether it's comics, books, movies, television, whatever. We talk about anything that we're interested in, anything we're enjoying. If people want to see art with this conversation, youtube.com/Nickfil. Jason, what are you interested in? What are you enjoying?
I'll bring the first one as, and I'm now wondering if I had ever brought it before, because this is kind of a phone in because of recent injuries, even though I have another. Well, it'll be explained. But the first one is Broken City. It's another Batman book.
Oh, yeah, the Rizzo one, right?
Yeah, by Eduardo Rizzo and Brian Azzarello. It's just so good. It's the main plot is Batman is searching for someone who he thinks hired someone to murder his sister, and in searching for him, a boy's parents get killed in front of him, much in the same way as Batman's did, and it's just kind of like. It sends it on a whole thing, and I don't want to give away too much, but suffice it to say, Brian Azzarello and Eduardo Rizzo are just such a great team. 100 Bullets is just like, I think one of the best
for 100 Bullets.
Well, and it's just one of the best comic books of like the last 20 years, I think, like by far.
Did you read all of 100 Bullets?
Oh yeah, a couple times. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I got super into it, but never finished it. Was it a satisfying ending?
It was because for the story, I think it was pretty right. It's just that like Azzarello and Rizzo are such a great like Azzarello's characters are so you just get attached even to the shittiest people, even to like the biggest villains, and Rizzo's art is I could go on forever of how much beautiful. I love Eduardo Rizzo's art, and between that and the way he draws the characters and how they all have their own distinct look and just these ultra expressive faces and bodies. So like, yeah, it did end really well, but like, man, they really made you feel for some characters that you probably should have known, like maybe aren't going to get their happy ending. Like
sure.
But as a whole, it's just, it's just so good. And Broken City, I think, is something that, I love it when publishers do this, when they just say, okay, you big name artist and writer, I know you wouldn't usually do a superhero book, but how about we give you, this little bit and you do what you want.
Yeah.
And you're in and you're out. You don't have to be here forever.
Yeah.
And
DC's been doing this. Doing this kind of a lot lately with, Human Target, Catwoman, Lonely City. They've been doing the Bad Day one shots lately. Where like it's like Riddler One Bad Day, Two-Face One Bad Day, stuff like that, where it's like showcases a villain, but it's also like a one shot where like different writer and artist, like prestige format kind of thing. I think a big like slipcase just came out of like all the One Bad Day stuff. I heard mixed things. Some of them are better than others.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I should check this out. I love those. I love those kinds of things. And so there's Broken City, and then because you'd already brought it to the To Read, but I had always meant to read it because I adore Kate Beaton, but I finally read Ducks, and it absolutely destroyed me. Like just absolutely like flattened me in how
it's up for an Ignatz right now.
Oh God. Well, I knew that, and thank you for reminding me, because I was going to say in spirit, and this is a forever recommendation, read Crazy Cat. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Read Crazy Cat. Get a hold of Crazy Cat any way you can. You can probably find super old, like, used collections. You can buy the beautiful reprints that Fantagraphics has been doing for years.
I was going to say Fantagraphics put some stuff out that's really good.
Yep. Read Crazy Cat, forever to read recommendation. But Ducks is just, and Kate Beaton is such a master cartoonist. I'll say that I'm pretty sure I said it when you brought Ducks up, but like something that like her art reminds me of a lot are some of like the best like New Yorker cartoonists, of just like how, and it's just every time, just these simple, like these simple seeming little faces that hold so much expression, and that can convey so much, and especially and as heavy as Ducks can be, that freaking sense of humor is still there, and there are still some just hilarious parts.
Did you feel, for anyone who hasn't read Ducks, because this was one of our early 2 reads, so if you're not well versed in the podcast, Ducks is about it's autobiographical. Kate Beaton grew up in a place that's a have-not province. That's how she describes it, of Canada. Not a lot of money, not a lot of opportunity. And in order to pay off her student loans, she does 2 years in the oil sands, which is hard work, basically mining oil out of the ground, in this unforgiving place where you basically just work and sleep, and that's it, basically. And she's like she's one female for every 50 males in the camp. So it's like a really kind of like sketchy situation. There's not a lot of safety. There's this like depression through the book that like is pervasive in the camp. And it's about like her just trying to like save enough money to pay off her student loans so that she can like live the rest of her life. And it's also kind of about her realizing that this place is changing her and what that means for her.
Yeah. Yeah. And how different it makes everybody,
not just her, everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. And we were talking about before the show, but I spent about 7 years working in a paper mill, and there used to be a joke that like I had nothing but mill stories, which is kind of true because like that was my life.
I was gonna say that because like when you were like, I'm gonna talk about the paper mill, I'm like, fucking mill stories, here we go again. Because I've known you forever. I know you all through that 7 years, and it was a lot of mill stories.
Well, because it was your life, and it wasn't nearly as much as like it's definitely like kind of like a wide parallel because I got to go home to a house and to still be around my family, and I wasn't so isolated. But I did work through most of it, all of it, a rotating shift, and through a lot of the rotating shift, there was like essentially, because you're changing shifts every week, you don't see anybody for a month until you hit your long weekend, which is 4 days off in a row. You know, even though you have a few days off in between, but it's like, so like, that's why I had so many mill stories, because I didn't freaking do anything else. Cause like I would get home and I would just be exhausted, and I'm like, I have to go to work tomorrow anyway. And the environment is so like dangerous, and like working and sweating and tempers and like all these, you just get stuck in this world, and just everything else outside falls away. And there's just that world, that like that tunnel vision,
there's a moment in Ducks where the mom sends some Christmas stuff to Kate to like try to brighten her day. It's around the holidays, and she just like does not even have time to unpack it. Like it's a tree that's like tipped over on the floor with like a box of ornaments next to it, and like she's like, yeah, great, thanks. And it's like this disconnect from like family and friends who want the best for you, and you're trapped in like this like work hellscape to try to make your life better as it erodes away the like softest parts of you kind of thing.
So like, you know, like one of the reasons why I got trapped in working at the mill for so long was that it was decent money. And as someone who barely graduated high school, was always a poor student, and barely ever tried the few times I went to community college, like, it was like, oh, this is a way that this is the only way I can make money by working.
You can afford a car payment, like stuff like that. Yeah.
I can afford to actually save stuff, you know, and save some money, even though I didn't do a lot of that. But like the older characters in the book bring up a lot of like, oh, well, like these young kids have everything now, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, but no, because of capitalism, you are not only sacrificing your body and your health and the environment of the planet you live on, so you can have, so your children can have a somewhat materially easy life, but you are not there. You're a stranger to them.
Yeah.
And that causes, so you're sacrificing that whole other part. So it's not just all this time, like, you know, like you're giving up way more than what you're actually getting back, and what you give up can't be gotten back. And sadly, what you're getting is kind of, it's not even kind of, it's what you need. You know, it's like she says in the book, it's like her pursuing a career in the arts wouldn't be possible if she had student loans. Like she could figure out a way to be a poor cartoonist if she didn't have the student loans.
Right.
You know, so I'm going to sacrifice so much of myself for the opportunity to be poor, but not destitute.
One of the things that I really like about Ducks is that it touches on all these things about capitalism and debt, and not in like a preachy way. She's never like, capitalism's bad. Like, instead, she's just like, here is my experience with capitalism, and here are the people that are surrounding me in this situation, so that my story is not necessarily unique. Like everyone is like getting rolled over under the boot of capitalism, you know?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Like I have a lot of friends, and, you know, well, and you have a brother who works for Electric Boat, you know, they work for a defense contractor. And like most of my friends who work there are like, yeah, man, war's bad. I don't like, you know, making like death machines, but like I live in southeastern Connecticut and
I need a fucking job.
Yeah, I need a job. And it's like, either I have this degree in this and they're offering me a well-paying job, or I'm pretty good at welding, or I went to the welding school and they're the better paying job of especially young. So I'm gonna go here, and I don't begrudge. So
I'm gonna make some war machines.
Yeah, like I don't begrudge anyone of that, because it's a bit more. Yeah, that's another great aspect of Ducks, is that there's, you know, it's a bit more complicated than just everybody stop. You know what I mean? Like I think that's like, I think that sometimes that's like a really childish view whenever anyone talks about like environmental issues, and so like, oh well, what are we just going to suddenly stop making plastic tomorrow? And it's like, well, no, like we probably should think about it more seriously than we do, but no, because like that's not like, we're all so intertwined. Everything's so intertwined. Like there's, you know,
it's this society that we live in, and it's like, you know, we're edging into the meme of like, we live in a society, but it's like, it's like, oh, so you hate capitalism, but you choose to participate in it. Interesting. It's like, yeah, these things are like thrust on us as individuals, and we need to make our way as best we can through them. And like Kate, you know, participated in drilling oil out of the ground in a place that was probably beautiful before it was like getting oil ripped out of the ground. And it's like these ducks were covered in oil and it made the news. But like the guy who had a heart attack in a crane, but instead of falling on the controls and killing people potentially, he fell out of the crane while he had his heart attack and died. And that did not make the news because like that's the thing that we're all experiencing over and over again. And the ducks are the unique thing that happened within the book. It's like a wild paradox. There's one thing that really, really stuck with me when I read Ducks, which was she gets in a truck with a guy, and she's talking about how when she was in her province, I think Nova Scotia, is that right? I can't remember.
She comes from like a town called Cape Breton, I think. There you go. Nova Scotia. I think it might be its own separate small island, but like all those. Yeah.
So it's like it's a fishing village, and by the way, credit to Charlotte Finn, who wrote a great article on ducks that I actually read just recently because I knew that you were going to bring ducks in, and I'm like, I need a refresher. But there is a moment that she pointed out in the article, and I'll link the article in the show notes if you want to read it.
I do actually.
It's been rattling in my brain ever since I read it, and it's when this guy's in the truck, and she's like, she comes from this fishing island that like nobody fishes anymore because they like basically overfished the population. They got really great boats. Capitalism came in. They got really great boats. They overfished it. Now there's no fishermen. And so it's a fishing village with no fish. And so that's why she has to be in the oil sands. And a lot of other people who she grew up with, like, goes to the oil sands. And she gets in this truck and she realizes that the guy is from the place that she's from. And she's like, did you used to be a fisherman? And he's like, I still am a fisherman. I'm just here now. And I'm like, that shit breaks my heart, Jason, because it's like it speaks to this volume of people who have a passion for something and a love for something and a heritage of something, and they are getting run the fuck over by capitalism.
Yeah. Well, and to be proud of something too. Like I never thought about it this way until the office job I had for a bit. One of my coworkers, Murph, who's living in Portland now. Murph is a really good guy. But he was just like getting fed up and kind of on his way out. And like, you know, the company we worked for did shit for retail stores, essentially. I won't get into that bullshit. But like, you know, he's like, man, he's like everything we do here is, he's like, I know it's an easy job. It doesn't pay well, but it's easy. But he's like, it's just all bullshit. And like, you know, I'd tell him stories about the mill or something like that, or where I learned a thing, or, you know, and he's like, at least when you were working in the paper mill, you could like, you were making a thing that people used, you know, and like, and other people have brought it up before too, that like, it's also not such a simple, all right, UBI is great. I support anything like a UBI. Everyone, you know,
what's a UBI?
Universal basic income.
Or I think a lot about universal basic income. I think a lot about it.
Yeah, but the thing is, and other people have pointed this out too, that like, even if you somehow got, let's say, Walmart to pay every employee $70 an hour, right? It still would psychologically do a lot for a lot of guys or a lot of people who used to be like, I used to be able to work in a factory and we made tires here. We made Fords. My dad made a thing that made this thing. And you could say, you know, that you made that you did something like useful, you know, you're at least a part of it. Even if you're like in an office, like doing like, you know, the books and accounting, you're like, hey, but like we're widget incorporated and like everybody needs a widget. Like,
Right.
You know, and there's just really something to, yeah, you're right. That's such a great scene because there is some things like that define people, you know, because
exactly.
Because it's your, my dad was that way a lot. And I'm looking at his machinist toolbox. I'm sorry, this is running way long.
No. Go ahead.
But
we broke these things into 2 podcasts. You can go long, man. Go for it.
I'm looking at his machinist toolbox, and which he still has in the middle of it is there's a special compartment for a book that has a bunch of trig formulas in it because
nice, yeah,
had to have to use that a lot, and of course it's like all stained with oil and from like 30 years of being a machinist, but he would he'd light up whenever I'd ask him to explain anything, but like, especially like stuff that he had very detailed knowledge of. And he was very proud though of himself, as he should have been, for learning this skill and supporting his family, you know, like from it and from making these parts that made these other parts go. Like he could be, he's like, I'm integral to this part that is a part of a hydraulic that goes on an airplane. Like I'm integral to making sure airplanes land safely, you know, and there's a lot of that kind of pride that can carry you when you feeling that you're doing something useful with your time every day.
Yeah.
Instead of, oh, I'm in the oil sands away from my family.
Right.
This is just for money. But if I'm a fisherman, you know.
Anecdotally, sometimes I feel that way when I book a lot of superhero stuff, because superhero stuff, like I did a few years ago, I was in like heavy rotation into DC, and I was doing I did like a Wonder Woman annual that I was really proud of. And it was like self-contained story, but it like dovetailed into like other Wonder Woman stuff, whatever. But I was very proud of that annual. And then it came out, got some reviews, got some praise, and then it was gone. And it was like, and since it was like integral into the Wonder Woman world, like the world moved on. So it's like, nobody's going to pick up the annual anymore. Like, unless they're reading like a run of Wonder Woman, like we are for the pod, like, you know, like that issue's like here and gone, and it'll get collected in a trade, and that trade will be here and gone. And it was like this extremely temporary speed of comics, mainstream comics, where it's like we're building soap operas with fighting and, you know, stuff like that with superpowers and sci-fi, but it's soap operas, you know, like, rarely do people go back and they're like, I'm going to read 10 years of Wonder Woman. Like they just pick up the Wonder Woman that's out now, you know? And so it felt really demoralizing to me when I was just doing superhero work, because it was like everything I do is like temporary. And granted, this was also like during lockdown, I was starting to feel these things, and it's I was isolated anyway. I wasn't going to cons. Like cons really helped put fuel in the fire. But like when I did Blink, I was like, finally, something to like cut my teeth into, high concept, something weird, and something that I can sell to anyone who hasn't read it yet. It's just a story. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it will endure past me, you know? Whereas like the Wonder Woman annual is kind of temporary, you know?
Yeah. Though I would have a slight counter argument to that I'm going to steal from one of my favorite books ever. I haven't read it in a long time, but I've read it like 3 times at least. But The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay by Michael Chabon.
I haven't read that in a long time.
It's such a beautiful, another permanent to read. It's just such a beautiful love letter to comic books. And it's a great story in its own right too about other things, but it is very much a love letter to comic books.
I don't read a ton of novels, and I went out of my way to read that one. It was incredible.
Yeah, it's so well done. And one of the characters in it is thinking about how, because it's a part in the book where they're detailing the run up to Seduction of the Innocent and all of that, and like decrying comic books as decaying moral character and that kind of shit. But he's thinking about how like someone's saying like, oh, well, it's just cheap escapism. And he's like, well, he thinks to himself, well, what's so wrong about that? He's like, people have rough lives. What's so bad about going into a movie theater and just like escaping your shitty life for a minute? Like, who cares?
Yeah.
It doesn't like, it's like
no,
that is so valuable, and like, sure, it's not going to be like, it's not maybe going to be like, featured in like the in memoriam in the Oscars reel or something, but
sure. My feeling, and I don't want to like discourage mainstream work because I love doing mainstream work. I love comics. I love Batman.
Oh, in the main pod, we talked about how we loved the Spellbinder, like goofy craziness. Like,
Batman's great, and I love doing mainstream books. I just can't only do mainstream books. Like, there's a level of, I don't know. It's I enjoy it, but there's a level of like trying to hold on to air with it. Like, I can't go to a con and sell the Wonder Woman annual from like 3 annuals ago. Like, it just won't move. Nobody's going to buy it. But I can go and sell Blink because like the thing is that like it feels like when I work on something like Blink that it will endure. Whereas the Wonder Woman annual will be like really great up front and then have diminishing returns kind of thing.
Yeah. It's like you're always happy to see on like a little buffet table thing, a box of Entenmann's cookies. Entenmann's cookies are the shit. But you're like, those are going to be some good cookies right there. Hell yeah. I love Entenmann's.
Okay.
But what is a little bit better is when you're like, oh fuck, is that a plate of cookies from the local bakery? Oh hell yeah. Oh hell yeah. Like, you're not turning your nose up at the Entenmann's. Like, Entenmann's. You know why Entenmann's is in every store. That's some good shit right there. But you're like,
Jason, are you doing low key product placement? Are you in the pocket of Big Cookie?
I mean, I might be. I
would love to be in the pocket of Big Cookie. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, I had a toffee cookie this afternoon for lunch.
Anyway, let's talk about ducks. Okay, let's circle back a little bit.
Well, I think I kind of think we sort of touched on everything for ducks.
The only thing I wanted to say was I also really like that moment in the cab in the truck with the guy saying that he's still a fisherman. He's just here now.
Oh yeah,
in the oil sands, because capitalism came and scooped up every single fish that it possibly could. And now capitalism's here in the oil sands, pulling oil out of the sands. And that's a finite resource. And they're going to grind all the oil out of the sands as much as possible until that's gone. And then it's like, okay, now what? And it paints this picture of this moving machine of capitalism that will like go from one resource to the next resource to the next resource with reckless abandon. And I wish that we wouldn't do that. I wish that humanity would just like, I don't know like you said, I don't know what the solution is because we live in a society, but at the same time, it's like, I wish we just took better care and we didn't necessarily get fueled by greed, but we're also human beings and we're fallible.
Yeah,
and it is what it is. Oh
yeah.
man.
Yeah, it's it's not something that, how to put it, when you look back on history on how things change and how we morphed from feudalism into capitalism, at least in the West, and then how that spread throughout the world, we look at it as history and it seems linear, but it's like the people at the time didn't really know what earth shattering things were actually happening, because it's hard to know that, because you sometimes like people in the future,
you can't see the future. You don't know the echoes down the road of like the action that you're taking.
Yeah. Well, even yourself in the future is a stranger, cognitively is a stranger to yourself. You don't think about yourself in the future the way you think about a person standing next to you. You just do not do it. It's the same. And I will die on this hill. Economics is not a real science. It has never been a real science. It will never be a real science. If you're an economist and you consider yourself a scientist, you're lying to yourself. Anything based on essentially what they call the rational actor theory, I might be getting the exact name wrong, is bullshit, because there's a lot of economic thought and theory that is based around humans making the most rational, logical decision, which never happens.
Yes, that's the problem, is that we cannot like see past our own noses to like the rest of the world and like figure it out logically.
Yeah, because someone explained it to me once how, I read once that GDP, gross domestic product, is just, it's a way to measure a country's economy, right? Just like how big it is, of like how much it produces generally, right? But it's not actually a great way to really measure much of anything, because you can clear cut an entire forest and your GDP will go up because you've just clear cut more trees and you're selling it. Now you have less forest, and that might not actually be a good thing. And that might also actually hurt your GDP pretty soon, because suddenly you might have to end up paying for like sudden rock slides or other catastrophes caused by clear cutting this forest, So like it eats itself, like.
So what we're saying is,
read Ducks.
If you want to feel just like a dull, constant sadness, you should read some Ducks.
But also, if you want to see, honest to God, I think one of the best living cartoonists, read Ducks.
Wow.
Because
high praise.
Honestly, I've thought that since like Hark a Vagrant. Seriously, like, it just like there's just something.
Hark a Vagrant, by the way, also a Kate Beaton book. It's comic strips lampooning historical figures. It's a lot more fun if you just want a light read. Hark a Vagrant, right there alongside Ducks.
Yeah, she also has some great children's books. And she also has a children's TV show on Apple TV Plus called Princess and Pinecone.
She does.
Yeah.
Nice.
Which features, it's in Ducks, where she's drawing something and someone's like, what are you drawing there? And she's like, oh, a pony. And it's a little fat pony. And they're like, that's a weird looking pony. It's kind of what like Pinecone ends up looking like. And she's drawn those ponies before. It's great.
That's rad.
Yeah.
I can't say enough good things about Kate Beaton. Thank you for bringing it to the pod again. It's worth. Jason, did you just audit me? Was this an audit?
Yeah, this is an audit. Got my e-meter ready. Audit you like a Scientologist.
Damn.
Beatons.
You want to know what I've been reading?
Yes, I do.
First of all, read some more Sandman. It got better than the yellow face arc that I suffered through. It was a arc about a guy who was hands in a lot of pies as like an evil entrepreneur. Again, anti-capitalism, but he's also running a like bare knuckle boxing Fight Club style thing in his basement.
Hell yeah, there you go.
Sandman gets kind of hip to that, but then finds that he's also dealing like coke and stuff, and he's got goons, and one of them is a very large person who I think is on the spectrum in some capacity or something, nonverbal kind of thing going on, where they're like taking advantage of their strength and stuff and so like they're beating the hell out of the Sandman, and just a lot of fun. Very good. They handled it very well. Like everything regarding, this giant person. Really great. Made me want to read more Sandman, as opposed to the previous arc. Just wanted to make a note of that. You should read Sandman Mystery Theater. But the main thing that I read was Spy Family. This is a manga. There's 9 volumes out. I read all 9 volumes because I ate the thing up. It's by Tatsuya Edo. He won the Japanese Cartoonist Association Award in 2023. He was awarded 500,000 yen for it with the award. And it sounds like a lot, but then I Googled it and it's like $3,500. But
it's still nice. It's still nice.
Step up. Cash money. The statue's nice. Cash money.
Yeah, even just a little bit. And Ignatz never change. You're the greatest trophy of any award ever.
The foam brick, right?
Yeah. Just Ignatz never change. Ignatz, you're cool.
Spy Family also got an anime adaptation, so you may know it from that. I looked to see like where it was streaming. It's on Crunchyroll, of course, because it's anime. However, a Disney Plus link came up, and apparently it's on Disney Plus in Japan. And I was like, well, I got a VPN. Let's I got a working Disney account. Let's switch over to Tokyo and see and start watching. And I thought I was being a genius, but you know what? You know what stuff is on the Disney app in Tokyo? Stuff in Japanese.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, let me tell you about what Spy Family is about. So Spy Family is about 2 countries, vaguely European. One is Westalis, and the other one is Astenia. And Lloyd Forger it's not his real name. He goes by Twilight. He is a spy, and he is like the best spy. And these 2 countries are in they're peaceful with each other, but it's high tension. It's like anything could set off war at any time.
Yeah.
And it's Cold War.
Yeah.
And so these countries, and they already went through a war, and they don't want to go through war again. And Lloyd Forger is tasked as a spy to get close to this target. Then the target never pops out. Barely ever. The only way the target ever pops out is when he goes to this prestigious prep school. So Lloyd Forger has to put together a family and then get the son or daughter into the prep school so that he can get close to the target. Now he's a master spy, right? So he puts together the Lloyd Forger alias, and he's like, shit, I need a kid, right? So he goes to like the most rundown orphanage he possibly can, because he's like, they're not going to ask for paperwork here. I could just pick up a kid. And he goes in, and the guy, he's like,
shit.
He's like, let me get a kid. And the guy's like, I don't know, pick one out. Like, whatever, just grab one.
Yeah.
And so he gets Anya Forger, who is a formidable child, Jason. She has been experimented on by the government and then dumped into this orphanage. She can read minds. So she knows that he is a spy, right? But she doesn't say anything because she's desperate for a family, right? So like Lloyd is thinking all these spy things, and then she'll be like shocked. She also loves spies. She watches a spy cartoon. She loves it. So she's like in the mix. She's here for it, and like she'll use her abilities, and she's hiding her abilities from Lloyd.
Yeah.
So, but she'll like hear bad guys, and she'll be like, oh shit, bad guys. And there's a thing in books with children where it's like, is the kid going to be annoying? And Anya, the way she's written, She's never annoying. She's always like this naive, precocious, super dramatic child. She's like at that age where it's like, she's not annoying. She's just very fun to be around.
Yeah.
And so Lloyd Forger is then like, well, if we're going to be a respectable family, to send my child to this extremely prestigious school, I need a wife as well. So he bumps into this girl and he's like, I forgot how he explains it, but he's basically like, I need a wife. She coincidentally is in her 30s and she is starting to attract attention because she is not married and she's in her 30s, and in the culture, like it's kind of a weird thing, you know?
Yeah.
And she doesn't want to attract attention because she's an assassin. So she's like, yeah, absolutely. I'll get married to you. No problem. Let's do this thing. So the whole family has all these ulterior motives. Like, he is a spy. The daughter is a telepath. And the wife is an assassin. And they are all keeping these things from each other. And they're all also trying to keep up the appearance of a great family and like cohesive.
This sounds like a phenomenal screwball comedy.
So, okay. So I'm setting it up that way because when I was reading about this book online, I was like, oh man, this sounds great. It's going to be actiony. They're going to be pitted against each other at some point, you know, like
probably some hijinks, some jokes,
some like really, really over the top stuff. But what happens is it's more of like a sitcom than anything else. It's kind of just like antics. Like, you meet all these secondary characters, like Twilight has Lloyd Forger as Twilight, the spy. He gets grouped with another spy who's in love with him because he's the best spy. And she's like, I want to replace Yor is the wife. I want to replace Yor as the wife because I'm in love with Twilight. And then they get roped into this like secret underground deathmatch tennis that they have to compete in. But since they're spies, they're really good at it. Jason, it's all fucking antics. It's all so good. Yor is meanwhile like assassinating targets, and they both have what they think is, and this is like the overarching thing, is like they have to do this job because they want to maintain peace, because Yor and Lloyd have both experienced war and they or have been touched by it and in like a harmful way, and they don't want to go to backslide back into it. So Lloyd is like, I need to recover intelligence in order to keep us from falling back into war. And Yor is like, I need to murder these targets so that we don't fall back into war. And Lloyd is a Westalian, I guess that's how you say it, living in Ostania, and Yor is Ostanian, and she is assassinating Westalian targets. And Yor's brother, who is dotes on her, also is part of a secret police, and he's keeping that from her, that are tasked with tracking down spies. Jason, it's so good. It's so damn good.
I love everything about this. I've been actually looking at the last time I was at Sarge's at my local comic book shop. I didn't actually buy anything. Didn't find anything new or anything that jumped out that I liked. But I perused over into the manga section, like looking for a couple of things that they didn't have. So, you know, but maybe because I know Spy Family is pretty popular, so maybe I'll look for that next time because I've been meaning to I've been kind of slacking on my manga recently, and the more frequency you bring it up.
Didn't you say you were going to join the Viz app? It's got to be up there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I wasn't sure if they were.
Yeah, it's Viz. The other thing that I'll say about it is I was waiting for a long time through the 9 volumes that I read, to really showcase Yor as the assassin. It ends like the last couple volumes are kind of centric around Yor, and it's very, very good. I don't want to give anything away. I'm sorry that I spoiled the deathmatch tennis, but it's just so damn good. There's a bunch of other antics. They eventually get a dog named Bond that has been experimented on and can see the future, but he can't tell anyone because he's a fucking dog. But like Anya can read his thoughts sometimes, so she might get like a glimpse of something that the dog is worried about. It's insane, Jason. It's so good.
Like Ein and Edward.
From Bebop.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Like everyone thinks Ed's just like being Ed and crazy, and like she's the only one that knows that Ein's actually like, you know, a super powerful being.
Yeah, the data dog.
Yeah. Oh, that's great, man. The deathmatch tennis, that reminded me too of like, I should start rewatching it again. But the after Bebop, the creator made Samurai Champloo. You know.
Oh man, so good, dude.
And one of my favorite episodes of Samurai Champloo is the baseball episode, and because I love the disclaimer before the beginning of every episode of like, guys, this isn't like a history anime, okay? So like, don't give a shit if something isn't period. We're gonna do baseball. Fuck you.
Yeah. There's at the end of every volume, Tatsuya will leave a comment at the end of the back, and sometimes it's just like I'm reading the one for 9 right now, and he just wrote, I bought one of those robot vacuum cleaners so I wouldn't have to spend so much time cleaning, but an entire month has passed and I haven't found the energy to take it out of the box. And that's it. But one of the little anecdotes that he put was that he imagines the world as like 60s Europe. And so sometimes he's like, I'm not sure if this tech is available in this world that I created, but then he's like, fuck it, it's a fantasy world. I'm just going to do whatever I want, you know?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. So he's like, I put the tech in the world, even though maybe it quote unquote shouldn't belong. So,
well, just like Batman the animated series,
right? Exactly.
It's like vaguely it's future, the 40s and 50s,
but it's vaguely exactly.
Yeah.
It's a lot of antics and hijinks, and it feels more like a sitcom than it does an action book, but there is action in it. I can't recommend it enough. Yeah, it's really great,
man. I mean, I thought you had me at like, because I immediately thought Cold War when you said fictional European countries, you know, and I'm like, oh, okay, this guy wants like a Cold War spy story. I'm like, that's all. I love that shit. I eat that shit up.
There's all these like mini stories that he puts together too, that are at the end of like every not every volume, but most of the volumes, where it'll be like just a self-contained small short story. There was like one where he had to his handler told him that a terrorist cell is smuggling in I think it was like a bomb or a chemical or something in a penguin that's at the zoo, and that like the terrorists were going to pose as like zookeepers and snag the penguin and then like get out of there. But there's like 100 penguins, right? And so Anya's like trying to read the minds of penguins to like find which one, because she's hip to what Lloyd's doing, but like Lloyd's like, no, we're a normal family going to the aquarium, and then he'll be like, gotta go, I have to go to the bathroom, and then he'll like change into being an employee, and he will browse the book of all the penguins, and so he'll know, because he's a super spy, recognize every single penguin by name. So he knows, he's familiarized himself with 100 different penguins by their unique markings. And then he's in there trying to find the one with the fucking bomb in them. And Anya's watching the whole thing because she's like hip to what's going on. And yours like, man, he's taking a really long time in the bathroom. It's just like, Jason, it's insane. The book is bonkers. It's so much fun. I can't wait to check out the anime.
Yeah, that sounds great. That sounds like such a hilarious good time.
Yeah, it's a real yin and yang situation with Spy X Family and ducks here.
Well, I think it worked out perfectly with bringing up Spy Family and after ducks, after the the degradation of
antics.
Yeah, the degradation of extraction capitalism and what it does to all of us and the planet. Let's talk about some fake European countries and a Cold War
and some wacky antics.
Exploding penguins and mind reading children.
There's an element to it that is like unique in manga that I wish would show up more in regular comics. I feel like Kyle Starks does this occasionally, where characters are like exaggerated versions of themselves. Like the schoolmaster who is judging all the intake students that they have to impress to get Anya into the school is obsessed with elegance. And like, they'll do something and he'll have like a glimmer in his eye and he'll be like, it's so elegant, where like, it's just super dramatic and fun. I don't know. I'm going to stop trying to sell everybody on this, because I think that you're either going to pick it up based on my recommendation now or not. But yeah, I very much enjoyed it.
Fuck yeah.
And I think it's more of it's going to come out. It's on break right now. 9 volumes are out, but 10's coming in October. I'm going to add it to my pull list.
Oh yeah. I think I'm going to get at least the Viz Online description after we're done recording, and we can find out. We can find out how much I read.
If you hop on the Viz app, Spy X Family, or Spy Family is what it's called. There's an X in it, but it's just called Spy Family. Chainsaw Man, Dan to Dan.
Yep. I'm definitely gonna.
And then I also read some Kaiju number 8, which was a neat concept, kind of failed to grab me, but definitely check out the first trade and see if it jumps out at you.
Yeah, hell yeah. And I'm definitely gonna read all of, because I only had the first 4 volumes when I was a kid of Rumna 1/2.
Yeah. I also
go back to that.
I'm warming up to read some Dragon Ball a little bit.
I kind of want to too.
I always, Dragon Ball is such like a odd property, because it feels like it was everywhere in the 90s, and it was everything I didn't want in the 90s. It was like a lot of yelling but nothing happening. It was very anime, and at the time I was like, this looks too goofy. Like, I was like, ironically, I was like, this looks too goofy. I'm going to read some Todd McFarlane instead.
I'm going to read some serious books.
Yeah.
I'm a serious adult.
I'm a serious adult. Give me some Spawn.
Yeah.
I feel like because of Dragon Quest, I've kind of like warmed up to I forgot Toriyama. I've warmed up to Toriyama in general. And then I picked up, he did a hardcover called Manga Theater that I brought to the to read pile. And I loved it. And I loved the way he drew cars. And I loved the way he drew like weird people and stuff. And it was just like a lot of odd choices. And I was like, this is actually kind of fucking great. And I'm like, maybe I don't want the anime Dragon Ball. Maybe I just want the books.
Yeah, I had in recent years, I still haven't gotten around to reading Dragon Ball yet, but like, in recent years, I had the same experience when I started like seeing more and more of his art, because like I only really knew of the anime. And of course I knew like most animes, it starts off as a manga, but like, and I saw his art, like I'm like, oh yeah, no, this is
dude's
different.
Got chops. Yeah. Like it's so good and it's so unique.
I will admit though, it did fly over my head. Well, I mean, I guess I didn't, because like I never knew much about it, but it is endlessly hilarious to me that there's an entire race of people in Dragon Ball that are just named after vegetables.
I didn't know that. I know basically nothing about Dragon Ball except for yelling and he's over 9,000. That's all I know.
Yeah.
But they put out 3-in-1 volumes that are like phone book sized that are priced pretty cheap that I think I'm going to try to get into. Part of the reason why I'm reading a lot of manga is because it reads fast. It's a lot different than what I'm used to reading. And like every volume of Spy Family is like under $10. So it's like, you know, they're like $7 a pop in some cases on like Amazon. So I would just like, I'd get a few and then I'd get hooked and then I'd just buy the run, you know, because I'm just like, inject it in my veins, put it in my eyeballs.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we should wrap this thing up so that my cough can get better and then you can heal.
Hopefully.
You know, Jason,
I'm gonna read some Spy Family. I'm gonna hope that heals me.
Yes, it will. Will it? I don't. This isn't an ivermectin situation. Anyway, the point is, Jason, how do people get in touch with you?
They can still get in touch with it. I'm still calling it Twitter. It's Twitter on the Twitter machine. You're
not posting some X's?
No. God, the dumbest goddamn thing. I will say, but before I give the final preamble, it's endlessly hilarious to me that Elon is such a dipshit that he made Zuckerberg look like a cool guy for the only time.
It's so fucking weird, dude.
Man's entire life. Mark Zuckerberg has more money than God and has never been cool his entire life. And he grew up with a shitload of money too. And he has still never been a cool kid. And Elon Musk is such a freaking idiot that he made
him look cool. Yeah.
Yeah. For a brief moment. Wow. But they can reach me there at King of Black Acid, and also us at World's Second Finest. That's World's Second with the number 2. And Nick is at Nickfil.
Basically everywhere. On linktree.com/Nickfil. You can find all my links there. I actually just set up a Blue Sky, but I haven't posted anything up there yet. I don't know if that's going to be the Twitter killer, but I'm ready.
Yeah.
I've parked the account. I've browsed over there a little bit more often. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I don't know. Part of me is like, maybe just no social media. Maybe I'm a over 40-year-old man who just wants to be done. But then I'll see something that'll like pull me back in. And I'm like, maybe social media is good.
Yeah. Yeah. There's always that. You know, just keep it off your phone at least. I try to keep it off my phone.
Yes.
That's exactly my trick. Keep it off the phone.
Yeah. Best way to get in touch with me is not through social media, but to join the Discord where we hang out and talk comics. We've been chatting a lot about comics in general. And I have also been posting about fixing Sega Saturns and how much of a nightmare it's been for me. So if you want that content, it's up there on the Discord. Come join us. Get on that content. I'm a content machine, Jason. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.